Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Civivi Neurohaptic. If you're looking for a knife that combines modern innovation with refined functionality and practicality, stick around because this might just be the one you're looking for. First off, let's talk about some specs. You have an overall length of 8.85 inches long, so it's a nice full-size large EDC knife with a 3.75 inch modified clip point blade crafted from Nitro V stainless steel, which is an excellent budget steel, has great corrosion resistance, it's tough, and can take an extremely keen edge. Your blade finish on this one is a very light tumbled finish. I like the fact that it's nice and slick to the touch, therefore it shouldn't cause much resistance when passing through dense material. You have fullers on both sides of the blade that go all the way to the end of the blade. And being this is a straight clip point, bringing that tip down low, that means you're going to have a very gradual belly to that tip, making this a highly versatile blade because if I want to use that tip, I can easily use it for precision cuts and you can use it for piercing. Now, it's not an overly dainty tip, so if you need to do some twisting and turning into, say, some wood, you should be okay. You have a small row of very functional jimping. It grips a hold of that thumb and you're not going anywhere. You're nice and locked in. You have a well-executed sharpening choil. I sharpened this one up after I finished the testing, and as you can see, it has not started to flare on me. Now, I would have loved it if they would have brought the plunge grind all the way back here. That way I would have had all this sharpening life. But from where it starts to thicken up, it looks like I'm about almost to the halfway point, somewhere in this area, before it'll start to widen at the heel, creating a smile. This one came with a flat grind, comes down fairly thin to around 18 thousandths behind the edge, so it should slice very well, and we're going to find out. Right away, I noticed that it is slicing very, very well. It came extremely sharp out of box, and being that you have a very low tip on this clip point, you can have a very gradual belly going to that tip, so in-hand cuts are very simple because you don't have too much belly to where you can accidentally slide out of the end of the cut, and you have a long enough usable blade length to, make some nice long cuts. So far so good. I do have gloves on, so it's hard to tell ergos yet, but it feels good. I feel nice and locked in because of how you have almost like a guard up there in the front from the choil and the top of the scales right there. So now we got the glove off and we're testing the ergos and how that edge wants to bite in this piece of pine. And so far, it's wanting to take deep chunks, and I don't know if you can see this through the video or not, but I am bearing down into the wood, trying to see if I feel any crazy hot spots or anything, see if the clip's poking me or anything. Very comfortable, very locked in, and just the right amount of grip on these scales. I like the Shred G10. It offers a little bit of traction, plus you have some milling that also offers traction. Once again, you have just the right amount of belly to make these cuts on a flat cutting surface very easy. And in my opinion, this is almost, this is an ideal blade shape if you're looking for something nice and versatile. Because you have belly, you have a great tip for piercing, but it's not too dainty. And, the making slicing motion cuts are fairly easy as well. You don't need a crazy belly. Only thing that would have been even, only blade shape, in my opinion, that's even more versatile as this is something just like this type of belly, but the edge sitting below the scales. That way you can get the entire edge onto the cutting board. Now, being that you have flipper tab on this one and that edge just barely sits sits above the scales, you're only going to be able to get that belly portion down onto the cutting board. So, it could, like I said, it's versatile, but it could be more versatile. But as long as I can do all the type of cutting I like to do, and probably the majority of the people do, then I'm good with it. And this one is not only doing it, but it's doing it very well. I would say last half of this year, every Civivi knife that I got out of box was incredibly sharp. I did have a lot of issues in the beginning, not issues, but they were over polishing or over buffing the edges. Just Civivi now. And they weren't performing at their peak ability. I don't know if they changed anything, or maybe that was told to them by somebody, but now they usually come with the right amount of bite to that edge, so you got that grit to allow the apex to grab into the material. So I'm showing you right here that I can use that tip, or you can use the belly, whichever one you want to use. You got both options. If you want to get more precise, use that tip. And if it's just a quick cut, you use the belly. Nothing that I noticed gave it any issues. All the dense material like this right here that I'm cutting, nothing caused drag. It was slicing very, very well, and it's ground nice and thin. This is Civivi. They know how to grind. They know how to do a thin grind, and yeah, I was very, very pleased with this one. And I absolutely love this knife. I think it looks good, and it's a good performer. What's not to love? One of the standout features is the deployment and action of this knife. So you have a flipper tab that is perfectly executed. The flipper is sitting in front of that pivot, so you're going to have tons of momentum once you pull it back. You have jimps there that do a perfect job of grabbing and hold the finger. The light switch, I mean, rockets out. And as soon as you release that button lock, free dropper, because it is riding on ceramic cage ball bearings. I can't really do a load up push button, but it comes out extremely fast by doing the light switch, and I find that to be the most comfortable and the most reliable. Those fullers are exposed, so I can use those to reverse flick if I want. I have the perfect amount of grip to be able to do it easily every single time. And if I want to slow roll it, I could grab it down here and then ride it all the way up. Tons of versatility in your deployment. You could also grab that fuller and do a drop, but you're pretty far away from the scales. So however you want to do it, you could also grab that button and open it like that as well. They all work fantastic. The next standout feature, in my opinion, is this beautiful shred G10 that Civivi does. It has a carbon fiber look to it, and it gives the scale some depth and a little bit of extra texture. Plus you have some milling that also gives you the right amount of texture right here. And then you have that line along with those three little holes. You have a recess spot for your pivot, so it's completely flush, as you can see there. And then you also have a recess spot for that button lock so you don't accidentally disengage it. Same with the actual Torx side. Torx T8 for your pivot and all your body screws. The only T6 you have is pocket clip screws, which I'm okay with because to take apart the knife, you do not have to remove this clip. It is tip up, deep carry, left or right-handed, and it sits fairly deep. You will have this exposed piece of the back spacer and the lanyard hole as well. G10's some pretty hard stuff, so if you needed to use that as a striking force, you know, either less than lethal force, or if you need to crack something, you could use it for that. You have a geared back spacer that is a little bit raised from the scales. Gives you a little bit of extra traction. I don't really notice it whenever I'm holding the knife. And if you look like this, you can see the G10 scales are shadow boxed to the stainless steel liner, just meaning the stainless steel sits out a little bit further than the G10. You don't feel that because they're nice and rounded and nice and comfortable. Speaking of the comfort, I was very comfortable. Even, you know, you got a fairly neutral handle. It does kind of slope down a little bit, and this flare up right here causes almost like a guard effect. Then you have this choil area plus that flipper tab. So back here, I'm super locked in. Then if I want to hold it in a saber grip, you have that jimping right there. That's definitely going to lock you in as well. And if you wanted to hold it in the reverse gas station knife fighting grip, you just put your finger on top of that. You know, it's not super comfortable because of this, but it's not super uncomfortable either. Now, as far as the lockup on that button lock, let's check it out. Yeah, God, my review table's suffering, boy. I have not had any of my Civivi button locks fail on me. So knock on wood. I find they do a great job with the geometry of that plunge lock right there. The stainless steel liners have been heavily pocketed out on the top and bottom scale, as you can see there, to reduce the weight as much as possible because this is a larger knife, bringing your weight to a manageable 4.28 ounces. I think that's fantastic for such a long knife. Let's check the balance point. Look at that, perfectly balanced. That's some excellent work. You know, it's not always easy to get a knife balanced, and why that's even important is because when a knife is balanced, you know, if you're, you know, fumbling around or you're trying to move the knife around in your hand, trying to creep up like that, it's a lot less likely to tip out of your hand one way or the other. You know, if it's butt heavy, it can come back like that. If it's blade heavy, it could slide out of your hand that way. it also makes the knife feel lighter than it actually is because of it being perfectly balanced. When all the weight's at the butt end, it feels a lot heavier. As far as the button lock, I do have some very light stick. Nothing that is uncomfortable to disengage, and me personally, I love to hear that, especially, to where it's not hurting my fingers or anything to disengage that, because that gives me even more confidence that that plunge lock is locked up tight. Now for some size comparisons, it's just a hair longer than the Civivi Tacticoric, and it's a little longer than the Ontario Rat Model 1. And it's just a hair shorter than the Petrified Fish Toonie, and it's just a little longer than the Civivi Button Lock Praxis. And it's just a hair shorter than the Miguron Valona, and it's just smidge longer than the CGRB Large Pyrite. Lastly, it's just a hair shorter than the CGRB Frac, and it's just a hair longer than the Civivi Sentinel Strike. Now, being that no knife's perfect, now for my nitpicks and complaints. Even though they put a stone wash on here, I think this is a light bead blasted tumbled finish. I would have loved just a regular raw stone wash. I think that would have looked nice, and it doesn't smudge up as much. But, that's definitely not a deal breaker, just as long as it doesn't corrode on me or anything. It would have been nice if they would have inset the clip into the G10. And while I'm talking about the clip, of course, T8 would be nice there, so everything would be T8. I don't love the exposed lanyard loop that's integrated into the G10 right there. It's definitely not a deal breaker, but it's just adding extra length and making the knife look a little disproportionate. So, who is the Civivi Neurohaptic for? If you're looking for a reliable everyday carry knife that doesn't compromise on style, this is definitely worth considering. Whether you're at work, out for dinner, or just need a reliable cutting tool at home, the Neurohaptic delivers on all fronts. In summary, the Civivi Neurohaptic combines exceptional craftsmanship, elegant design, and practical features that make it a standout choice in the competitive knife market. Civivi continues to set the bar higher and higher with every knife they make. If you're interested in picking up a Neurohaptic, it will be linked down in the description. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification for more in-depth knife and gear reviews. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Civivi Neurohaptic. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below as well, and I'll do my best to get back with you. Until next time, keep those blades sharp, smile more. Hey!